You're very welcome back. Now, the weather is our national obsession and often the biggest talking point. So it's no surprise that the people who deliver the good, or more often than not, the bad news, are some of the most trusted and recognisable broadcasters on our tellies.
Which is why our next guest has written a beautifully illustrated book that explains the weather in simple terms for children. Joanna Donnelly, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning.
Great. It's morning, yeah. Oh, Sunday morning, I'm up.
The book is, Anna was saying during the break, it's beautiful. We'll talk about the illustrations later on. But where did the idea, what was the genesis of the idea for it?
Yeah, I was approached by Gill Books. They had this image in their head as to what they wanted to produce. I'm so lucky to be involved in this because they had a really, really high quality product in mind.
Yeah.
Like you say, it reminds you of Folkloropedia. It's the same type of big,
very similar
beautiful
style
book, a really good paper. So I'm really lucky that they said, would you do it? And as soon as they said, you're going to write a book, I thought, why haven't I started that already? So it just poured out. I've been working with kids for years, going into the schools, doing weather with them. So I knew what I wanted in the book and I just started.
Because kids are fascinated by it. I'm always stuck with questions like,
I know,
but
why is this?
But why is the lightning after the thunder?
Yeah.
But understanding meteorology.
Well, the answer's in the book.
Oh, there you go.
You have to buy the book.
It is.
Meteorology and understanding that is one thing, but being able to break it down into children's terms, and as you said, there's lots of adults who want to read it as well.
Yeah, well, no, it's the same
It's
questions.
another art, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same questions that adults and children ask. Adults ask, because they don't know. And I've been answering those questions for 20 years now. It's not like I just came up with the idea this week. You know, it's been 20 years of talking to adults and to children. And I know how to tell them the answer. That makes them go, oh, yeah. Because I've been practicing over the years. You know, the first 10 years, they're still looking at me blankly. But now I have it. I know the answer.
Was it something that always interested you, meteorology? Like, what? It's not a usual career path. Why? What pushed you towards it?
Science.
Really?
So, I mean, my friends will tell you when I was in school in the science lab, I never had a partner at the bench because nobody would work with me because I wouldn't let them do anything. So I was just, you know, science mad right from the get-go.
So it was very clear that you had a massive passion
for science,
beyond an interest in it, I suppose.
Yeah, ridiculous.
How does a weather conditions like the conditions we've experienced this year in particular? We've had a heat wave, we've had Storm Emma, Storm Callum.
Yeah.
There's been I mean, how does a year like that impact on your job? Because ultimately it brings the weather into the news, doesn't it? And it becomes the number one story.
That's the difference, that it's the news then. Most of the time the weather is not the news, the weather is just the weather. And as the meteorologist on duty, you do a certain number of things, tasks, to produce a forecast. So you look at the obs, you look at the data, you look at you look at the same things regardless of what the weather is. It's still, you have to do the process. So the difference happens when it becomes the news, because then you have to deal with the news and the impacts and the the calls. So then it becomes very busy for that reason. But doing the science is and should be the same. You know, we should have the same day.
But does it put more pressure on you in terms of predicting the weather? You know, we always say this in a week coming up to a storm. We'll hear how bad it is, scales and levels. Yeah. There must be a certain pressure with that, though, to get that right, which, of course, you can't do all the time.
No, of course not. I think at this point in the development of meteorology, we are now, the communication is the key aspect of what we need to get right. And communicating uncertainty and communicating the seriousness of certainty when we know that something is certainly going to happen and how serious it's going to be, those little nuances are tricky. But we're getting better all the time. And I think the public are starting to realise that we are actually getting an awful lot better at the computer models certainly have gotten so good in the last 5 to 10 years that really we're mostly on top of things.
Yes, it's more accurate than ever, isn't it?
It really
Do you
is,
still find that there's like mad people who shout random things at you, like, I booked a bouncing castle for that party and it didn't work out?
You're taking my story, because I was just telling the ladies outside that you see people looking at you across the room and the squint, you know, they're looking at you like that. And you think,
it's your fault.
Is that the bouncy castle or is it the daughter's wedding? You have to judge by looking at them. Which did you mess up here? Is the daughter's wedding or the bouncy castle? So,
wow. Because it's all your fault.
His mum.
Anna was talking yesterday about a story that caught her eye. Remember the stuff you're doing about the Weather Channel?
Yes, the graphics, yeah.
They're amazing.
Aren't they?
Absolutely
You talk about the
amazing.
technology, of the predictive stuff and that, but the way the weather is presented now.
I know, yeah.
I mean, do you ever sit and watch that and go, oh God, I wonder if we ever get a chance to do stuff
well,
like that?
I know how much work would go into the graphics package that produced. That's like a movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think we need to temper our expectations as to what we have. The
resources.
What we have the resources for
in
terms of time as well. I mean, you're trying to develop the images that you see behind me. I produce those before I go on, and I need the time to produce the forecast and those before the delivery. So, you know, I'm in hours before the forecast.
Of course, and people don't often give you credit for that. They think you just walk in the door and turn up and...
But as a meteorologist, do you ever sit there looking at, when you see storm covers in the States, thinking, God, I'd love to be standing on that bank, you know, the eye of that, right in the heart of the weather?
I get you where that question is coming from. Yeah, because that's the storm chasers mentality.
Yes,
and of course, we'd all love to have our hands on that sort of weather. I'm not sure I'd like to be in that sort of weather, but to have your hands on forecasting that sort of thing, I mean, that's great. But having said that, Ireland has great weather for forecasters. Yeah. I know people are constantly complaining about Irish weather, but Irish weather is actually really, really great. You know, we've got the temperate climate. We're not too hot. We're not too cold. We're just right. We've got all these beautiful green fields that we saw what happened to them this summer when it didn't rain for a while.
Yes.
Well, we are tending to see more extremes now. I mean, is that all down to, you know, global warming?
Climate change.
Global climate change.
So we are seeing hotter and colder, hotter summers, colder winters.
Yeah. Well, you can't pin any specific event on climate change. You said global warming. You know, that was rebranded a few years ago because people thought global warming, that sounds great, I'd love it to get warmer. So we had to say, well, no, it's climate change. And I think we should put back in the global and remind people it's global climate change.
Yes.
And it's going to affect the whole globe. And although we can't look back and say in terms of weeks or months that this particular event was because of climate change, overall the globe has gotten warmer and climate will change and it will impact us all. That's not to say that this winter will be cold and next summer will be hot again. That's yet to be panned out. But certainly the climate is definitely going to change because it's a global thing.
Before we let you go, we just want to mention your charity, which is a wonderful one, the Pomegranate charity. Tell us about that, Joanna.
Yeah, well, that's completely on a completely different.
It's a different
topic.
hat, isn't it?
It's a completely different hat. Yeah, no,
but it's a very worthy thing that is worth mentioning here. I think.
Thank you. 2010, myself and my partner Fiona McPhillips set up Pomegranate to help. So long before I was ever on TV or anything like that, we were working to try and help people access fertility treatment. It's only available in the private clinics at the moment.
Yes.
That looks like it's going to change. Hopefully there's new legislation. So hopefully we're going to be put out of business. But in the meantime, we're still trying to, you know, just get a little bit of relief for people that need it.
Of course, yeah. Isn't it, Gas? You're happy to be put out of business because it means there will be a government solution.
It means the problem solved or being solved. So tell us just very quickly about the book. Is there a specific age group it's aimed at?
Well, I think 9 to 11 is the core. The core. But I genuinely believe if you can, I have a lot of 5-year-olds are picking it up, smaller children. You can dip into it and grow with it.
Yes.
But I think a lot of adults
I think a lot of 50-year-olds will pick it up too.
I think so, yeah. I think they enjoy reading it to their children.
Yes.
I'm going to get it for Christmas.
Yeah.
She'd love that.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
listen,
Joanna.
Everyone will learn from it. Thank you very much for coming into us this morning, Joanna.
Thanks.
Now, coming up, more winter coats over on the catwalk. Fashion is up after this break.